Hello, hello.
Hey, people.
Good to see. Hello, Richard. Good to see you. Hi, Yas. Good to see you. Adit, Ashok.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm hoping that we're going to get to see everyone's lovely faces.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Neil, it's
Tuna.
good to see you as well. I'll not really see you, but well, see you.
Neil's in a very dark room.
All right.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hello there.
Hi, good to see you. Hi,
Hi.
Neil.
Good.
Hey, Ashok, good to see you.
Good. Hi, Aman. How are you?
Not too bad.
Okay, cool. We're just going to wait another minute or so, and then we're going to get started.
I'm just going to put my video off a little bit so that I can get this bandwidth on properly.
Okay.
Hey, Tiffany, Amit, welcome, guys.
Yeah, good to see you. Chandrasekhar, hello.
Hey, Chandrasekhar.
Vandana, hi.
Hi, how
there,
are you?
Aman. Hi. I'm doing
Hi,
absolutely
people.
good.
Good stuff. Nice to see you. All right. Just wait
David.
another minute or so, and then we will get started.
Thank you.
How's everyone doing? Where is everyone? Actually, let's just ask a few people. Neil, which city are you in?
I live in Pune.
Oh, you're in Pune. So you're facing a new lockdown of another 15 days.
Yeah, we can do that. You know,
Yeah,
do we want to do a quick chat exercise? If people can just put into the chat box what locations they're currently logged in.
Yeah, good idea. Let's get everyone in the chat box.
I like what Richard does, though. Richard just adds, edits his name to include his location.
Yeah, very good. So we've got Richard from Hong Kong. We've got quite a few people from Pune. Yeah.
Yas is from Pune as well. I'm based in.
I love that one, Adit. It's very
Adit has
good.
brought his sense of humor to the show.
Gosh, good one. And Lakshya, you're in New Delhi. Gosh, I hope things are going okay for you there. And Yaz, I think, is in Pune as well. Chandrasekhar, you're in Chennai. Excellent. So we've got people from around the country and further east.
Yeah. David, David, if you can hear us.
Earth to David.
Yes, I am in Pune too. And
okay.
I think less than the lockdown, it's also, in case people are not aware, the government has decided to only start vaccinating from, I think, the 15th of May.
Sorry, say that again.
The vaccinations for 45 and below or 44 and below, that's really only opening from the 15th of May, not the 1st of May.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm very pleased to hear that, actually.
When did they change that?
Yeah.
1 hour ago.
Okay.
Hey, Arpita, welcome. If you can, you got to turn your camera on. We haven't seen each other in ages.
Yeah.
There
you are.
So it's probably going to show my son's name because I'm using his school Zoom app.
No, unless your son is also called Arpita.
Yeah, we could.
No. Fortunately, not. One is more than enough.
All right then. Should we get started? I think we should, and other people can join in as and when.
Absolutely.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to everyone. Welcome everyone to this week's Wake Up, Speak Up. I'm Vandana Saxena-Poria, and I am the human alarm clock, as I'm consistently aiming to wake people up.
And I'm Aman Zaidi, and Vandana has recently woken me up to the fact that I am the falcon. I see the bird's eye view, and I help others see it too, especially how things are connected. And on Wake Up, Speak Up, every month, we pick a topic of importance to us as a society, and we examine it. Vandana, why did we decide to talk about the skills gap this time?
Well, it's a really curious thing, Aman. I mean, I've been interested in skills for the last 30 years. And that's 3 decades. I've been interested in skills, and I've been following skills gaps. And what I found was that 80% of graduates have been labeled or proclaimed unemployable every year, literally for the last 25 years. So how can you have like skills gaps, the same, and often we're talking about the same skills gaps for over a quarter of a century. And the number hasn't really narrowed despite attempts by governments, colleges and corporates and crores of rupees or millions of pounds to reduce it. So Aman, I want to ask, what are the real reasons behind the unemployability and what needs to be done to decrease it permanently?
Yeah, and you know, that's a question that we want to examine today collectively. So we're going to talk about what are the real reasons for this never closing gap. We're going to talk about what needs to be done urgently. We're going to talk about what needs to be done to control it permanently. So you know, we found that about people are saying 80% college grads are unemployable. Why is this? Is this because 80% colleges are crap, or 80% lecturers are useless, or is it that students don't want to learn? You've worked in teaching and you run classroom-based training, Vandana, both in India and Europe. What's your opinion? What is it? Are students lazy? Are teachers rubbish? What do you find?
I think it's a really interesting question, and let me give you an analogy to explain the problem as I see it, right? So I started my career outside of the UK after I qualified as a chartered accountant in Romania, in Bucharest. And Romanian accounting was like binary. Either you were right or you were wrong. It was either black or white, right? Now, global accounting, however, was about principles, not law, not binary. You had to move from right versus wrong to maybe. And when I came to India, research showed that accountants couldn't make the shift to maybe. So being the porcupine that I am, I poked the hornet's nest of education and didn't let go. And I found out that a lot of accountants didn't like maybe because they were afraid to fail. They were afraid that their bosses wouldn't approve. And when I needled them even further, what I found was that their parents had taught them to focus on getting it right, getting the marks, and that they didn't have critical thinking skills or adaptability because it was always about the marks. But what they need today is critical thinking and adaptability and flexibility. At the same time, there are some parents who are quite broad-minded, who teach their kids it's not all about the marks. And they seem to have done better, but they're also at a disadvantage because how you're brought up, the societal norms and the education system all play a role. If you had broad-minded parents who didn't think much of the education system, then society steps in and penalizes you for not getting enough marks, and you won't go to the top colleges or get into the top companies. And alternatively, if you went after the marks, you'd get the job at the corporate, but you wouldn't perform because you weren't able to think the way you were expected. So we have this continuous loop.
Right. Okay, thanks. So, you know what you and I did, Vandana, recently was we did a few polls on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And we'll just see those poll results as I say, oh, it's already there. But hang on, there's something in front of that.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's my, hopefully that's better.
Yeah, much better. Thank you. So, you know, what we found in the poll results that over 60% of people consistently seem to put the onus or put the blame for skills gaps not closing on educational institutions. Of course, that's just the majority. If you look, there is a smaller percentage of people who are saying, no, wait, parents, society, and others also are playing a role. And this is something that we've also found that it's not only about one group. So we want to take a systemic view and start addressing the other parts that are causing this situation. So what we found was a bunch of different things seem to be contributing here. Vandana, what do you think?
Well, I think this Venn diagram kind of explains a lot of it. Rather than go through the details, I mean, you can just read, the challenges we've got. But I think the more important thing to notice is what happens to the poor youngsters who are part of this process. If you're at the intersection of two of these, you're either depressed, apathetic, or frustrated. And if you're right in the middle of this, then I don't even want to think how you must be feeling at the moment, right? And that's pretty much what a lot of people are going through at the moment. And I think then, for me, it comes back to the singular meaning of success in most of society. And teachers and professors that don't have the motivation to build people who can limit the skills gap, home life limits adaptability, and the media rams down our throat what success means, and especially ideas about overnight success, which are untenable for most of us. What do you think, Aman?
Yeah, this is we've talked about this in the past, and I quite like what you brought up, Vandana, that the students who are at the crossroads of these singular ideas of success and media imposed ideas of overnight success and parental pressures and societal attitudes and poor education, and in the middle is the student, the aspiring professional, and all of this doubtlessly affects the mindset that they develop. Their mindsets could be fear-based, limitation-based. So by the time they come into the professional world, either they come in with attitudes which are fixed mindsets, saying, "Okay, I'm bad at this. I don't know this. I never got a chance to develop in this area," and those attitudes may then play out in their professional lives as well. So I think that's a good point.
And also the other thing, Aman, and everyone, is that there are certain skills that you can learn. You can literally go to a course and learn them. And 30 years ago, that was enough. Life was slower. We had fax machines and we booked international calls, right? So everything was slower. But now, because everything is so fast, there are so many other skills we're supposed to have. And a lot of those skills can't be taught in a classroom. Things like critical thinking, cognitive flexibility, resilience. And school and home are often pulling us in opposite directions when it comes to these skills.
Yeah, and societal norms and tradition have largely stood still while everything else has moved forward really fast. Also, let us not forget that parents, teachers, business people, they all come from the very same society. So they continue to value traditional methods of parenting, traditional methods of education, traditional modes of hiring. And if they're going to continue to do what has been traditionally done, then this is going to affect each new generation of learners and workers, because their mindsets are then going to be stuck in the previous century. So parenting styles, for example, when it comes to education, the focus is still on marks instead of skills. Yeah, and those things. Sorry, we heard a voice.
Yeah, Aman, Ashok here. I would just like to take us all back a little bit, because you said stuck in the previous century, but that's not true. I just want to rewind. Okay, before that, I've been into training for more than 20 years now, and I have seen how the value of most of the learners are in the marketplace, whether it's IT or architecture or any of these. So most of the time when we used to get into the training sessions, and we used to ask the students, what is your expectation from the class? So most of them would say, Ashok, it would be that I have to put 40 hours of training, otherwise I'm not going to be appraised. That's the first stumble block that we have. So they're not there for learning. They just want 40 hours to be put, because that is there in the manifest that is given to them by the HR. Now, going back to the century, earlier the education system was under an autonomous body which was established in 1942. It was called the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, which we today call the CSIR, which was supposed to be putting up education policies and systems and skill gaps which help enable the development of the country. So they came up with a plan and started in 1946, just after the World War, where Dr. Joginder Singh gave a complete free hand to Dr. Humayun Khabra, who then gave it to Dr. B.C. Roy, who was the Chief Minister of West Bengal then. And that's how the first IIT came out in Kharagpur. They were supposed to be the model template of education system and policy, where the skill gap of the entire country and the education system and the learning process would be leveled with, and it would benefit the country. And quite soon it followed. Quite soon it followed up with 1950, the first 50, as soon as 1951.
Ashok,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. We're going to open it out to questions very shortly and comments very shortly. There's just one piece that we want to get onto before we do that. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. I just wanted to add one thing, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms actually, to speak a bit, to really be able to get some interaction going. Do you remember there's this expression which is, it takes a village to raise a child? And if you think about it, in tribal societies, it really did take a village to raise a child. Everyone contributed to a collective end, somehow in an integrated manner. And I think actually it takes a village to raise today's companies. When we moved away and shifted from tribal to urban, did we lose that collective integrative approach? Aman, do you think we did?
Yes, I think, and I'm not alone, because if you go by what Richard commented out there, that he also talks about the consumerism of education. And I think our focus shifted not just from tribal to urban, but we went away from collective to commercial. And it seems that none of the focus that we have, whether worker focus, parent focus, or student focus, none of it is about growth or development, but it's actually about on how you can earn. If you don't get good marks, how will you earn good money? Those kind of attitudes. And also, if I can add, one very important point. As a society, in India at least, how much value do we actually place on teachers? Why is it? Why doesn't the government step in? Why don't we call for the government to step in and regulate salaries? Why is it that an investment banker should make 17 times more than a teacher? What motivation will anybody have to want to get into teaching? Those kind of attitudes we need to examine.
And not only examine, but we need to say, do we need to turn the system on its head when we think about teaching and who is teaching? Because even in school now, very little time is spent on future and present skills. It's coming in more. It's in the IB curriculum, the International Baccalaureate curriculum, and some of the others. But even in the workplace, little time is spent on it. I mean, we say hours and hours, but actually when you think about it in terms of as a percentage, it's a small amount. Managers are still assessed based on their qualifications. And most corporations don't know how to assess for skills either. Everyone talks about the skills gap, but big corporates are tying up with the likes of Coursera to fill the technical skills gap. But what about those other skills that are so important? And we've got Dr. Richard Claydon here with us today. And he pointed out in one of his sessions that out of the top 100 MBA schools, they don't have well-being as a subject, despite the fact that we've known for years that this is important. Maths is mandatory, but psychology is not. And why has no one challenged that? Because if you work in the workplace, you need to understand psychology and why people are the way they are.
Absolutely, math. All right, so this problem actually has not been solved, like Ashok Iyengar pointed out, by the gods and the greats in the past. It's time for more diverse views to come into this debate and tease out the real problems that lie beneath the seemingly apparent problem. So what we're suggesting is now all of us should get into a highly interactive discussion in breakout rooms where we will speed date with the problems and see what innovative thoughts people will come up with. So the graphic, the Venn diagram that we actually saw, that actually has those are the three areas that we were looking at examining. So we're going to see, yeah, Vandana
Sorry,
already done that.
I've
If
just
you
done
look
it
at-
very badly. I'm just doing it again.
Okay, so
Apologies.
in your chat box, you're actually going to see Vandana type in 3 questions that in your breakout rooms you will examine. So have a look at the chat box.
Yeah,
There you
much
got
better.
question 1, question 2, question 3. And in your breakout rooms, have a go at these questions, right? And we'll do this for about 20 minutes.
No, we'll do it for 15 actually, Aman, because we're smaller groups. So Glenda's going to shift us randomly into breakout rooms. And really don't focus on the past. Don't focus even on the present. Just think as innovatively as you can about yourself and what you mastered. And think broadly about what can be done. Glenda, can you shift us magically?
I am shifting you magically.
Welcome back, everyone. So we'd be really interested, Aman and I would be very interested if you'd like to share anything that came up that you thought was interesting, any insights, did anything wake you up? What else should we be speaking more about? Maybe if you want to just put some thoughts into the chat box, and if anyone wants to start speaking, it would be really useful to hear your views. Really focused on those questions though. What was it that you, what insights are you taking away? What do you think we should be talking more about?
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take those 2 questions that you've asked and put them into the chat box.
Okay.
So that you can, so here's what Vandana is saying. We want your responses in the chat box on these 2 things.
Yeah, David's written something quite interesting, actually. David, do you want to, so what you're basically saying is we should perhaps be doing more of these kinds of things?
No, I was struck by your point about what were our own experiences. I was lucky enough to often go for summer camps and so on. Then my friends who live in Israel said, well, but you were well looked after, you didn't have to prepare the food, and they were explaining their experience. So young Israeli children, I think it probably is compulsory, they have to spend multiple summers working with, children of their age group. It introduces social mobility. It teaches them respect to keep the, living space clean, prepare food for each other, and a whole bunch of things. So it's something that I was struck by from your point of, what were your own experiences growing up of learning, teaming, new skills, which have got nothing to do with academics.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, David. That's really interesting. So, and there are those kinds of camps. Obviously, it's much more difficult to do online, but actually I've seen some quite inventive ones. But again, I see a lot of parents pushing their kids to do singing and dancing in a competitive way to win something rather than to learn these skills. So I guess that's been a challenge. And oh wow, Richard, you've got a far better looking person in your lap.
Definitely better looking than her dad.
I got to go to sleep.
You got to go to sleep. Okay, good night.
Good night.
So I'm in the same room as you.
Yeah, I'm in the bedroom, so she's next to me.
That's so brilliant. So Richard,
I am.
do you want to mention that, and then maybe we can go to Tiffany?
Yeah, so one of the things, I'm obviously talking more from a Hong Kong perspective than India, but I think it can map to India quite well as well. There's this fear that that we sort of have a scarcity mindset that the world's going to get worse and our kids are not going to have the same opportunities that we had. So you make them, that fear drives that you need to work hard, you need to do this, you need to get the best exam results. But the parents have been growing, their education was in a different era. And the skills in that era are not necessarily the skills in this era. They're required in this era. So they're forcing, they both trust and force their kids into outdated methodologies, teaching methodologies. And I just put in, I threw in liberating structures as something that you might be able to do somewhere with kids, to explore other ways of learning that are far more motivational. But whether you can get them into the formal schools, I'm not sure.
Chandrasekhar, you wanted to add something to what Richard said?
Yeah, because
then
what
we'll go
Richard
to
said is very interesting. What he said
Yeah.
is very interesting because, we have this 4-letter word called FOMO, the fear of missing out. And that exactly, what Richard is saying. I think the parents have this fear of, whether our child will miss out on something. And unfortunately, we are actually getting at an age where it is no more the survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the fastest. So that's the sort of, unfortunate situation that is happening. And one thing that I've noticed, even in me as a parent, is I think when it comes to any sort of this education or any sort of vocational experience that you want to give to the child, I mean, the customer and the consumer are different people. I'm the customer, but the consumer is a child.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we end up signing up the consumer without even knowing whether the consumer wants it. For example, if I want to have something for myself, I would only choose if I want it. But as a parent, sometimes we don't realize, whether this is truly required for my child, and we end up doing that. So I think, I keep always telling myself, learning is an experience. Everything else is information. So the question is, are we truly giving experience or just bombarding with information? So I think what Richard said is so beautiful, and I thought I should add to it.
Great. Aman, do you want to take over? Maybe we get Tiffany to speak, and then Aman, which points do you want to get everyone talking about?
Interesting stuff that came up was that, if you notice what I just put in the chat box, one of the things that this conversation made me think about was that schools and corporates have a tendency to want to control things. They kind of want to hang on to power. And they don't therefore take inputs from stakeholders such as society and parents and even students, the biggest stakeholders. Nobody listens to a student or nobody listens to a worker in an organization. It's that, oh, no, I'm the administrator, I'm going to do everything. So I think diverse opinions, if we can kind of invite diverse opinions from all stakeholders, that could be something interesting. That's one thing that really came up.
Brilliant. Tiffany?
Yeah, I'd love to share. Thank you.
So I can,
Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to share. I came across an interesting woman. Her name is, she's an author and a writer. Her name is Kristen Sherry, and she discovered that there's actually no genre of books created for young people to develop themselves in skills, values, personality from a young age. And I feel like that's a lot of what Vandana and Aman are speaking of today. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, I've actually included a link to some of the books that Kristen Sherry has written. And so if you're interested, feel free to give it a look. And I've heard wonderful things. They're not all out, but perhaps that might serve you. There was no ISBN code for actually for that type of books, children's development. And so I don't know if she created something new or if she boxed herself into something that already existed. But knowing Kristen, I believe that she might have done something different. Second to that, I was reflecting on some of the things we talked about in our own breakout room, and I feel like, yeah, that family dynamic is interesting because as my parents, who are blue collar workers, and just like very low middle class, I watched my parents work hard throughout the day and then come home and do nothing, and I found that I had to make a conscious choice to wake up, right, here we are, and do something different in my life. And so, all of this is work, right? Innovation is work, and that includes personal innovation and personal development. So I'll stop there, but it's been really wonderful being here. Thank you.
Great, thanks. There was one person who wanted to, Neil?
That was me actually. So a couple of quick points. One is, there are hard skills and soft skills, right? Both are important. We are now realizing that, only hard skills are not going to make us successful in career or contented in what we are doing, right? So now more and more we realize that soft skills are equally important in leading a good life, or being more balanced in our life, work-life balance, or whatever we call it. I think that's more corporates are also focusing a lot on teaching corporate, this soft skill. But what comes in the way of the Indian? I don't want to comment about life in other countries. In the Indian context, what's important to understand is the way society is structured. We have a very, very supportive family system. So basically, most of us are not so independent, in the sense that not necessarily we are responsible for our own life, right? If you fail in the corporate world, or you fail in life, there is a whole support structure there to take care of you, which comes in the way of, I don't have to learn continuously. I don't have to improve myself to be in the job market, to successful, to undergo training. I often ask, having spent tons and tons of money myself in taking training programs to upgrade myself, my money, own money, I hardly see, how many people spend money by themselves. In India, it's not so common. If you are going for training programs, it's primarily the corporate sector sponsored. Unless you are sponsored, not many people. Slowly that's changing as a new generation, as they become more and more independent, more they are spending their own money.
Neil, this is a really fabulous point. And I actually, just like magic, have a slide that I wanted to share with you. Sorry, just one sec. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it's this, it's like hard skills or technical skills are like switches, right? It's like, whoops, it's like they go on and off, right? Yeah, there we go. It goes on and off. But the other skills, the softer skills, are like dimmer switches, right? It's like you have to keep practicing them, and you get brighter. And if you stop doing them, you get weaker. And it's so much effort to do that. So I just wanted to share that point because it was very applicable after what you said. Okay, we're down to our last 10 minutes. What we'd like to do is break you out into into groups of 2. And we just want you to think, we're called Wake Up, Speak Up for a reason. We think that there's lots of really interesting thoughts that always come up through this. What is it that you want to speak about? What are you going to speak up about? What are you going to write about on LinkedIn or on Twitter? What conversations are you going to have with your kids after today's conversation? Or with other friends who have got kids? Like, are we doing this all wrong? What else do we need to be doing for our kids? Where are you going to be willing to speak up? Aman, is there anything else you want to add before we ask Glenda to do the magic?
No, I think you've said it. We'd like you in your groups to share with each other what's the one thing that you want to do differently or talk about, so that other people can also wake up.
So we'll give you 3 minutes, and then we want to get everyone back again and do a quick sharing before we round up on time. So Glenda, can you do your magic?
Magic being done.
Thank you. Great to see everyone back. I hope you had time.
Yes, we did.
Great. All right. Again, then, do people want to share in the chat box? What are they taking away? What are they going to do differently or more of, but preferably differently? It'd just be interesting. Or, what insights have really struck you that you're going to do something about? Either in the chat box or just unmute. We've got a small group, so we've got time to do a couple of people.
So Vandana, I was teamed with Neil, and I thought it was quite interesting. Sometimes the trigger to pick up a new skill, it's not because your work demands it. It's not because your supervisor tells you to do it. It's not because your peers are, probably more skilled in that than you. I was struck by what Neil said. You can sometimes, survive and excel in doing things that you like to do. But when you're really open to learning, they say lifelong learner, then sometimes things that don't appeal, they don't appeal because you don't know enough of it. So Neil was telling me how he picked up very different skills from his academic background, whether it is negotiation, whether it is, I guess, psychology. Neil, I didn't scribble exactly the other topics that you had done, but it was not motivated by a traditional thing of supervisor tells you, you need to pick it up. It's just that, he was open to and realized these are things that might be interesting to learn.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What would you do if you were playfully, courageously, just curious, for the sake of being curious? So that's a brilliant one. So, maybe that's something that people will think about. If I was being playful and courageous and curious, what would I do?
If I may just add something there, Vandana, I'm going to play porcupine for a little bit. One of the things that I find challenging and is that I think for far too long, we've put the pressure of self-development on the individual without acknowledging the role that the system plays in hindering or enabling them. So, so I kind of want to bring this up that, look, while it's great for us to say, hey, you know what, be curious, learn, become a lifelong learner. I want also people to, at least my takeaway is I want to push against the system more and get the system to be supportive of individual pursuit.
So you're going to speak up about that, Aman?
All the time. Just going to do more of it.
Excellent. All right. Who else?
I have a question.
Hmm.
Related to Alan's comment, what do you do with what happens in India to children between the ages of 3 and 5? Because that's when their brain grows the most. Yeah. So that if you haven't done something right, then it's tough for them to catch up. So that's a question. That's an important question, I think.
Yeah. So what are kids doing?
So, Richard, I'd just like to add on what Richard just said. It's a very valid question out there. What do you do with children between 3 and 5? Because that is where the gray cells grow predominantly. I just share my experiences when we put our third little fellow onto school. He was 6 weeks when he went to school, and the whole society was just up against. He says, "Are you parents mad that you want to send a 6-week-old baby into a school?" But, and we haven't done much, but we stuck to it, and today he's doing pretty good. That's the key question. Richard really nailed it to the point. But that's where the foundation stone is.
No, good point. Good point. I am aware that it has just gone 6 o'clock, so we should probably wrap this up. But I think it is worth saying, from our perspective, this problem that we've got is as big a problem as climate change. It needs the most radical mindset shift to really bring in the skills that are needed to be able to deal with climate change and all the other things that are impacting the world today. All that's left for us to do is to say thank you so much. Stay safe, everyone. And just so that you know, we've got 3 episodes coming up. The next one is going to be mental health, stigmatize or prioritize. After that is going to be religion, discussing the undiscussable. And after that is going to be merit versus diversity, whereas many people feel that diversity comes at the cost of merit. We want to challenge this assumption. So those are going to be the next few Wake Up Speak Ups in the next couple of months. We look forward to having you with us. As ever, thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great that you could be here. Everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Great session.
Bye-bye.